Hey guys, welcome to the RAMZPAUL show. It is Monday, June 9th. Let me just straighten out this a little bit here. There we go. It's great to be with you guys. Welcome to my show. This is a bonus show because on Friday's night show, we made the $50 goal. So we did a show today. So I'm excited. So thank you. And I'll do another goal. So if we get another $50 today in super chats or rants, I will do a show on Tuesday. But it's great to be here with you guys. I hope you had a good weekend. We're starting to get into summer. Memorial Day's over. So it's a good time. A lot of stuff to discuss today. And as a reminder, this Wednesday night, I have a show with Z-Man. We do Wednesday wrap up. The shows are great. They're a lot of fun we have with them. And this week, we're going to be talking about propaganda in movies and television. It kind of feeds into what we talked about last week with narratives, but it's a little bit about how they do this. And it is very interesting. And so you want to be sure to check that out on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. So that will be happening. And again, if you want to support the show, ask a question or comment, we have many ways to submit your questions. One way is Power Chat below. Power Chats you can use day or night. So if you're watching the show later in the day, after it's not live, you can still submit your question in Power Chat, and I will count that for the goal. And YouTube has Super Chats when I'm live. Rumble has Rants. And Streamelements has a tip feature. Speaking of which, I should bring that up. I thought I brought that up, but I guess I didn't. So let me bring this up real quick. And then we'll get into the show. All right, I'm in there. Oh, and someone asked prior, BC, do you know what Pat Buchanan is up to these days? I don't think he's up to much. I mean, he's got to be pretty damn old now. I love Pat Buchanan. I think we're going to go over one of his clips. And get off of my lawn, 10. Happy belated birthday, Paul. Well, thank you. Yeah, my birthday was Saturday, June the 7th, and I had a good time. And thank you very much. Only $30 more, we hit our goal. But thank you very much for that. I do appreciate that. And yeah, Pat Buchanan is how old is Pat now? I think he's got to be in his 90s, isn't he? I admired him, but he is definitely up there in age. No, he's younger than I thought. He's 86. But I haven't seen him for a while. It's too bad he wasn't the presidential nominee back in, was it 96? He was an early person that saw the problems that would happen in the Southwest because of mass immigration. Another person that I really learned a lot from was Thomas Chittum. I think that was his name, Thomas Chittum. And he wrote a book, Civil War II. He was a mercenary. He fought in Yugoslavia when they had that war. And he understood the nature of how diversity leads to conflict. Diversity is not a strength, it is conflict. Now, it's good to have diversity of ideas, but part of what makes a nation are things that bind us together. And if you get people that are so alien, either racially or because of the language or religion or whatever, it doesn't work. You can only keep it together by force. And Thomas Chittum helped me to understand the difference between a nation and a country. And I think that's a very important thing to understand. And I preach this a lot because this is the key element. If people understand this, I think it makes it easier to have these discussions. A nation is by blood, is from the Latin word natio, which means birth. So you're born into a nation, you don't join a nation. It's the people that you're genetically related to in some way, or a group of people. There's some examples that are obvious, like the Jewish people are a nation. Yeah, you can convert to Judaism, but you're mostly born into it on your mother's side. And even if you're an atheist or a Buddhist, if you're born to a Jewish mother, you are a Jew. So it's not religion. They do have a religion, Judaism, but most of them really don't practice it, but they're still Jews. So Jews an ethnic category. And they existed even when Israel didn't exist. They still were a nation, a people. We have examples in the United States, like the Cherokee Indians. They are a people related by blood. You just can't fill out your application and say, hey, I want to become a Cherokee Indian. So a lot of this we always understood. And it goes with others like Russians or Japanese. So you got to be based on ethnicity. Like Jared Taylor was born in Japan, but he's not Japanese. He could have been a Japanese citizen, but he wasn't Japanese ethnically. He wasn't part of their nation. Now, a country is just a geographic area that is controlled by a political unit. And so, for example, Germany is a country, United States of America, Mexico, and so forth. But you could have multiple nations in a country or just primarily a single nation. When you primarily have a single nation lined up with a country, that's what we call nationalism. An example of that would be Japan. Japan is composed of Japanese people. Doesn't mean everyone there is Japanese, but the vast majority, super majority, are Japanese. Israel is an example of an ethno-state. They are for the Jewish people. And again, it's not like they're going to allow in a bunch of Muslims. In fact, they're in the process of doing some ethnic cleansing in Gaza. They don't want them in Gaza because they don't want them part of Israel, because if the Palestinians were part of Israel, they would vote in a democracy and the Jews would no longer have their ethno-state. And they feel they have a right to an ethno-state because they're special and the Holocaust or whatever excuse. That's their reason. But they would say, we're not allowed to have such a thing. So that's kind of puts it into perspective. Once you understand that, this is, it makes more sense. And the theory is countries tend to be more stable and happy if a country is lined up one for a nation. So if you go to Germany, it'd be great to see German people. I don't want to see Arabs. I don't want to see Turks. I don't want to see Africans. It should be Germans. Same with England. And again, it's not 100%, but it's got to be a super majority. This is our country. This is who we are based on blood, based on this is the language we speak. These are our customs, our religion. That's what binds the people together. And in the United States, we were founded primarily by white people, specifically England. That's why we speak English. And we had a common religion in Christianity. There's different denominations. But until recently, that was understood. And if you look at old movies or read old books, it was understood. Now, we did have a slave population from Africa, but until after the Civil War, they weren't citizens. They helped on the farm. They were like farm tools, according to the slave owners. Not that I think that was the right thing to do. It was probably the biggest mistake we ever made in America is importing them over here. But they weren't citizens. They weren't considered like real Americans. And Indians weren't considered Americans. In fact, in the Declaration of Independence, they were complaining. That was one of our complaints we had to King George, is the savage Indians. They weren't Americans. They didn't found America. They were primitive tribes. Americans were the pioneers from England, and it maintained that way basically for, until recently, really. It started to change with the 1965 Hart-Celler Act, but even then it didn't change overnight. And the early part of my life, except for certain areas, this was 90% white country, and the other 10% was black. And then you had a smattering in the Southwest of Hispanics and maybe a few Chinese in like San Francisco. But that was the demographics of the country. And where we all spoke English. This was a Christian country. I don't ever remember as a kid seeing a woman in a hijab or something like that. I've seen that now. It's jarring. You just never saw that back in the day. That's something you read about on National Geographic in a bazaar or something, but not here. So this has been the big change. And we've had, I think deliberately by groups that want to break apart, not only America, but they don't want any white majority nations. And a lot of groups, Jewish groups and other groups did that because they think that's a threat to them. And so we've had a deliberate policy of trying to open the borders and bring millions of people in that really aren't part of our nation. They're of a different nation. They're an alien nation from us. Now, they may be US citizens, but they're not part of our nation. And when that's small, the percentage, it's manageable because you don't need 100%. In fact, you rarely have 100%. I mean, maybe the closest is like North Korea's almost 100% Korean, but I think even they have a couple of citizens that aren't North Korean, but pretty much that's, so there's a certain amount you can have, but at some point it becomes unmanageable. And when it's a small amount, you can have what you call assimilation, where the people start to adopt the attitudes of the majority because they need to fitting in. I saw that when I attended high school. I went to Green Mountain High School in Lakewood, Colorado, graduated in 1981. And if you look at our yearbook, it was 95% white students. We had a smattering, and maybe 90%. And we had some Hispanics and maybe one or two blacks. But it's interesting that Hispanics and blacks, because they were in such a small number, they really assimilated in what we would call act white now. So when you have a small number like that, it can work. But when the numbers start to change and they get to a bigger number, you start to have a tipping point where they revert back to their own nature. And I believe, just like dog breeds, they're all dogs. They all bleed red. But all dogs, breeds, if you ever had dogs, you understand breeds have different tendencies. And it's not so much which dog breed is superior. Like, I don't even know what that means. It's funny how they use that, like they know, oh, white supremacist. But I mean, what dog breed is superior? Well, it depends what you want it for. If you want racing, it's a greyhound. If you want tracking, it'd be a bloodhound. If you want like police work, guard duty, it'd probably be a German Shepherd. If you want just herding ability, maybe a border collie, and so forth. So the point is, the breeds over years, they have different tendencies. And again, it's not exact. And their training is involved with that too, but there's a genetic component, even though they're all dogs and they all came from the same lineage and they all came from the gray wolf basically 50, 60,000 years ago. And then we've had a lot of breeds development since then. So humans are the same way, and we've evolved differently because of different sections of the globe. So we have different ways we approach the world. Asians are very different than whites. Whites are very different than blacks, and so forth. And then even in subgroups, you have differences. I would argue Europeans, Italians are very different mannerisms, the way they go about things, than, let's say, Finns or Russians. And even Asians are that way too, Chinese versus Japanese. Even though they're ethnically pretty closely related, they have differences. In Africa, call them all blacks or Africans. That's just a broad category. There's various tribes. Many times they committed genocide against each other. So you get the breakdowns like that. But so the point is, what size do you need to make a nation? Because you couldn't, if you take it to extreme, it's like, oh, I just have a nation of me. Paul Ramsey, I'm the only one in my nation. Oh, that's ridiculous, right? But there comes a point that is too big where it's everyone. Well, then you don't really have a nation. It's just a hodgepodge of people. And that's what's starting to happen in the United States, is we're becoming a hodgepodge of people that don't really have much in common. We don't have a shared blood, kindred blood. We don't have a shared language or religion or customs. And that creates instability because people want to have self-rule. And in the United States or Western Europe, it's a little complicated because these people from Africa or Central America or other places, they want to come to our countries because they are unable to create a high standard of living. And they like to come here because they like the standard of living, like running water, clean water, a functioning government, stuff like that their people are unable to create. So they come here, which is understandable. I don't blame them. I mean, it makes sense for them, but shame on us for allowing that to happen. So, and some come over here and they assimilate fine, but others, once they get to a certain number, they resent it because they're their own people, but they still want the stuff from us. So we get this weird dynamic of hating white people, but still insisting of being around white people. This is why it's a very, people have quip, like the biggest fear you can put into them is saying, oh, you got to go back and live with your own people. No, that's cruel. How dare you make us live with our own people? Because they know on a level, right? They know on a level, but that the difference creates a lot of envy and hatred, as we've seen express. So it's not a workable solution. And this is more granular than just race. It also is even a cultures, and part of what we're seeing in Europe right now, right? Or the Russians versus the Ukrainians. Russians and Ukrainians are both Slavs. Their languages are very close. They're both Christian. They're both Orthodox. They have a different spin on the Orthodox. So they're pretty damn close, but they still have troubles living with each other. They see each other as very separate. And the Ukrainians see the Russians as stupid orcs. And the Russians see them all as Nazis, whatever that means. And so there's this ethnic conflict, even though they're the same race. And I saw it when I visited Estonia. The Estonians don't like the Russian minority population there. So this is something that we see all over. And so when you try, the whole idea that diversity was a strength, you remember that mantra? The good thing is I don't think anyone believes that anymore. You got to be kind of dumb. It'd be like if you still believe that the COVID vaccine stops you from getting COVID, after all these people, including President Biden, took the vaccine and then got COVID multiple times. You got to be pretty dumb if you think that. And you got to be the same level dumb if you think diversity is a strength. It's not. It's a weakness. It creates tension. It creates problems. Because people as human beings tend to want to be around people like themselves. This is like other animals. You see this in schools or in prisons or in baseball teams. White guys tend to hang around white guys, Mexicans with Mexicans, blacks with blacks. It's not 100%. There's some overlap, but that's the way it is. So this country, while we can be accommodating to people, we should have been very careful to keep this country super majority white with our laws, which we did have before 1965. But then we had this weird idea that we were told, well, that's racist. And this term racist, what does it really mean? It's sort of a vague term. It just means you're a bad person. But because of this evil thing, and you don't want to be called this evil term, we have to bring in all these people that are not compatible with us. But we were told, but if we bring them in, it's actually going to enrich our countries, and we'll get exciting new food recipes and improve the economy and all this type of stuff. But everywhere, people don't like it. Even white liberals don't. They may vote for that, but when they have enough money, they move away from that. They move into like white gated areas, or mostly super majority white. They may have a fabulous gay black friend or something, but this is what we see. It's not a Hollywood movie that we see in the propaganda. This is reality, and this is how it works. And a lot of people, like Pat Buchanan, I got that question. He brought up in the 90s, he saw early, as did I back then. There wasn't the internet, but I did see it, that it wasn't sustainable bringing in all these people, especially Hispanics, that aren't compatible with us. Not that they're bad people, and there's some great people, but we're a different people. And eventually it's going to cause the country to start break apart. It's going to create instability. And he was called racist. He said, no, they get in. They're going to be great. They're hard workers. And how dare you? Don't you know we all bleed red? They always say that. I'm not really sure how that's an argument. As I've said before, I had to kill a snake out here once. And guess what? It bled red. What does that mean? Does that mean a snake is exactly like humans because we both bleed red? It's ridiculous, but that's a stupid argument. So anyway, all these evil people like Pat Buchanan and Joe Sobran and a lot of us, myself and others that have been, VDARE and everyone has been predicting this. We were called evil, racist, and conspiracy theorists. And how dare you think that? This just like us, because all these people, they're basically all white people. They just have to come over here and get trained to be white, and they'll be like us. And don't you know the Irish and the Italians? They bring that up. And then it doesn't happen because they had a false premise. All people are not the same. All groups of people are not the same. And you can keep the lid on things a little bit if you have like a police state. They had this problem in Yugoslavia. That's how Thomas Chittum, when he wrote the book, he saw that, because Yugoslavia at the time, it no longer exists as a nation, but it was composed, no longer exists as a country, but that country had multiple nations in it. The Slovaks, the Serbs, and other people that didn't get along. And the only way you could keep them together is that Tito had a strong police state. But once that breaks apart, it boils over. So this is basically what we're seeing in the Southwest, which Thomas Chittum predicted. It's not hard to predict, because everywhere in world history, this is what happens without exception. So it shouldn't be like this wild, like, oh, no one could see this coming. But it did come. So let's see here. Oh, I got another $10 thing, 30. So another $20. We have another show tomorrow. Happy Monday, Rams. Looks like a good week for content. Hope you are to see you tomorrow too. Yeah, well, we're almost there, over halfway there. So thank you. It's good to see you guys too. Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff going on here, and it's sad what's happening. But I saw that. I got $13. We got a super chat here. And so it's 30, 43, only $7 more, and we have another show tomorrow. All right. When did I did the amount? This is in pounds, I believe, or euros. I can't tell the symbol, but in American dollars, it's 13. The violence in shithole LA cannot be compared with 1967 and 1992. This is an organized terror campaign of intimidation, like BLM protests, supported by the Democrats' Politburo. Yeah, I'm going to get into that, but thank you very much. So that's $13, and we had 30, so 43, only $7 more. We got another show tomorrow. Yeah, the Democrats definitely are trying to do their old color revolution playbook, where they try to fund this sort of thing. But not everyone is involved. In these riots, you have different types of people. There was a video of blacks rioting and stealing a shoe store, looting a shoe store. This is a typical scene we see. And it's like these blacks in California, they don't give a damn about, they don't even want the Mexicans there. So it's not like they're, or the Hispanics, it's not like they're rioting because of that. They just see an opportunity that they can loot, that so they take advantage of it. So it's not like they're part of some grand plan. It's not like they have some big ideology. It's not like they're reading Marx. It's ridiculous. They just say, hey, the security broke down, we can loot. And that happens everywhere, every time, without exception. So if there could be a hurricane, right? And if the law enforcement should break down, they're going to loot. 100%. 100%. It's just going to happen. Other groups don't do that. Like Japanese, when there's a disaster, they don't loot. They help each other. You can count on it. They get together. And even white people, like Hurricane Katrina, we get together and help our neighbors and stuff, get together. But other groups, their first idea is if there's things to break it down, hey, this is my chance to rob people and steal and sexually assault people. And that's what happens. And so they're not part of like some Soros plot. They're just acting on the moment. And but then you do have some of that Mexican nationalism. They think the Southwest should belong to them, but they want our money, and so forth. But do you have the Democrats that are trying to push back on this too? So there's a lot of things that are happening here. All right, let me just show you some of this stuff here. And I won't show anything graphic because I'm on YouTube and they don't want me to show anything graphic. So I don't. No graphic stuff here, but just the aftermath. This is what the media will call mostly peaceful protests. You know, looking at this is really sad. It doesn't look like an American city. This is what, when I was a kid, I would see images from like Beirut when there would be like some Muslims blowing up cars or something. But that is not a third world city. That is actually America, Los Angeles. And this happened in our country here. And it's sad, but that is the situation there. Let me see. I think I had another. And here's some more of footage. I think they were trying to attack the police here, waving the mech. Let me see here. Yeah, you notice they're not flying the United States flag. They're flying like the Mexican flag. And they're throwing rocks, cop cars, which could kill someone. By the way, they should be arrested for attempted murder. And the police just sort of look, they can't do anything. And again, this is not a third world country. Well, I guess it is third world because we brought in third world people. And Los Angeles used to be a very nice city in the 70s and 80s, prosperous, kind of the golden state, California. But you brought third world people in, and they lived in conditions like this, and they bring the conditions over. So this is what we have right now in Los Angeles. And it's a very, very sad situation that we shouldn't have had to tolerate this, but this is what we have in this country. So that's it. $15, Joseph. Hey, we made our goal. So yes, thank you. We'll have a show tomorrow. Trump needs to immediately put 500% tariffs on Mexico to help fix the damage from these riots. Yeah, and all money that is sent back from the United States to Mexico, it should be taxed huge, and to reparations to fix the damage. But the long term is they need to be deported. They don't belong here. They have their own homeland. I'm sorry they can't produce a nice nation, and their nations end up with drug cartels and decapitations. But, we shouldn't have to put up with it. That's how they choose to live. They can live with that. We don't really want that. And here is some more footage of this happen over the last couple days. I'm not sure if it's happening today or not.
The president writing, the illegals invasion and put an end to these migrant riots. Order will be restored, the president writing. The illegals will be expelled and Los Angeles will be set free. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So obviously some provocation here from the president in several facets. As we see, here we go. Those demonstrators are making their way down the ramp and onto the 101 freeway.
That should be illegal, by the way.
The concern that we had seen a little earlier, the freeway had been shut down by law enforcement, and it is now being shut down by the other side. Demonstrators are on the surface of the southbound 101 freeway and blocking traffic.
It's funny how the media notice will call January 6th a riot, but they never call this a riot, even though they're burning cars, police cars, and throwing rocks. It just shows you the propaganda of the media, and the media needs to be purged too right now. But this is where we are right now. And look how the media tries to frame this. Okay, just watch this. This is amazing.
Move law enforcement in there and the wrong large group of people.
So here they are burning cars. Remember January 6th, there was none of this. But here they are, the usual like it was in 2020, burning cars. I mean, you could kill someone like this. This is arson. I think you should be life in prison for doing something like this.
It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers and demonstrators.
So they're saying that we shouldn't get the police in there because these are just people having fun. They're just having fun watching the cars burn. I mean, who hasn't had fun? I don't know. Is this what you guys do over the weekend? Who hasn't had fun? You get the whole family together. Hey, let's set cars on fire on the highway. That's just some fun. It's like playing a board game. Allow people to have some fun. Why you have a stick up your ass? White people, you need to be Viva la Raza. Let's set cars on fire. Yeah, so that is the official spin that the evil Donald Trump is trying to prevent these people from just having fun watching cars burn. Who doesn't have fun watching cars burn? And here's some more the people in LA, third worlders, having fun in LA. And here it is. And notice there's no American flag. So these people aren't saying, remember, because we're always told, how dare you say we're not Americans? We're just as American as you. And we just don't want to be deported. How dare you? They don't have American flags. They have the flag of their home country, Mexico, which they don't want to live. They don't want to live there. God forbid you try to send them back there. God, no, that's a human rights abuse. Well, how can you expect us to live around Mexicans? No, we can't have that. But meanwhile, they're waving their Mexican flag here, right? Mexican flag, no American flag. So, not exactly good optics on their point of view, but it's this is what is happening here. And this was iconic. I think I'll show you guys this. You might have seen this, but this is a kind of symbolic, and I'll show you some more. This was in LA.
And it doesn't escalate from here. Look, you know, let's hope that no one is hurt.
Why? Why should we hope that? These rioters should be hurt. And look at this. So it looks like a scene out of Mad Max, right? This is Paramount, California.
And no one is injured, and it doesn't escalate from here. Look at the flag. Yeah, Guy, I see
there it is.
You
Mexican flag can, you know.
This is criminal activity that I hope is people are held accountable for. And I'm talking about the riots right here.
Where are the cops?
You know.
Yeah, good point there. And so I think we saw that. So, I mean, it's pretty clear. It's an invasion of our country. They declare war on our country. They shouldn't be considered citizens, or they should be considered like soldiers out of uniform. And there should be 100% force when anyone's doing like that. I mean, not arrest them. It should be considered a battle. And this is where we are right now. All right, let's see here. Oh, this was the iconic shot. Have you guys saw this? This will go down like one of those shots that last forever. And here it is. This is they posed in front of a Dale's Donuts. And this is what we brought into America to enrich us. These are the people we brought in front of a Dale Donuts, throwing gang signs with their hands and waving the Mexican flag while arson things are burning in the background. This is who we imported in. This is who certain people imported into our country. Maybe we should import to their country, see how they like it. And it's been crazy here. Now Trump had a response, and I think this was let's take a look at Trump's response here. A once great American city, Los Angeles, has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Well, a lot of them are legal though, right? They're not all illegal. I bet some of them may be, but some of these are legal citizens, but they need to go too. See, this is where you take the next step. Now violent insurrectionist mobs. It's funny. I love using insurrection. Since January 6th, hey, if they have a right to shoot dead an unarmed protester, Ashley Babbitt, she had no weapon. She was shot through the neck. That's a new precedent. That's a new precedent that we should apply to Los Angeles. Now violent insurrectionist mobs are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try to stop our deportation operations. But these lawless riots only strengthen our resolve. I think they do. And I commented on this on X the other day. This isn't 2020. It's a different time. And people, something's changed. Now, there's some people that still fall for this, but most Americans, they have no toleration for this. I didn't in 2020, but I think even Normie doesn't care for this anymore. Normie eating their breakfast in Wichita, Kansas, seeing a Mexican biker waving the Mexican flag while setting cars on fire. It doesn't really sit well. And having little pictures of Mexican kids crying, I don't give a shit. And I think a lot of people are feeling that way too. But I am directing Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and Attorney General Pam Bondi in coordination with all relevant department of agencies to take all such actions necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion and put it into the migrant riots. Again, not all of them are migrants. Order will be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. Yeah, well, I mean, you can stop it easy. Is people just say, hey, we're going to do a shoot to kill order anyone that's looting and do it. And then people that are involved with this activity, they go to jail for 20 years, including illegals. Then after they serve 20 years, I guess we could send them to El Salvador, Guantanamo Bay. But the most important thing are these groups that could be funding these people. They need to be looked at under RICO and be taken apart. And they need to go after that too. My favorite guy in where is he? Yeah, my favorite guy of the administration. I like JD Vance, but I'm a big Stephen Miller fan. He's our base guy in the White House. Los Angeles is all the proof you need that mass migration unravels societies. You think? I guess we all owe Pat Buchanan an apology. He was right. You can't have all the other plans and budgets you want. If you don't fix migration, then nothing else can be fixed or saved. I agree. This is the number one issue. And I'm not the guy that's that's saying the budgets are irrelevant. We're headed to a fiscal crisis in 10 years. So major things have to happen. Like I think we should cut defense by half. But one way you could save some money, it's a start, is to kick these illegals out of the country. And this is a number one concern. And then the budget's number two concern. But we need to get these, this is our number one concern. This is more important than the sex changes for kids or Ukraine and Russia. These are important topics, don't get me wrong. Even the economy is not as important as this. This needs to be done. And as I said, a lot of people are kind of seeing through this. And this is Tim Pool. The rioters in LA function as modern day corsairs. The goal is to obstruct ICE efforts under the guise of private riots while being sanctioned by the state. Newsom knows he can't formally defy the feds, so he uses rioters. Yeah, the Democrats, that's what they used Antifa for. Antifa is heavily composed of, back in the day, it was a lot of meth heads. Now it's a bunch of cross-dressers that have drug problems, and themselves, they're usually on the street. They're a step away from a fentanyl overdose, which I think is a good thing. But they can be funded and used as to create troubles by various groups in the Democratic Party. And this is why we need to use RICO to go after these groups that fund these people and organize them to do this. And so that definitely is happening. And so, yeah, that is a very big, huge problem there. Let's see here. Super chat, Killikami for mommy. Thank you, Killikami. I really do appreciate that. Let me get this down here. $20. Thank you. With all the destruction last night, there were only 10 arrests. What good are the police and National Guard? Yeah, I agree. I would be a lot more forceful. And this is a problem that they don't arrest these people and put them in jail for a long time. These people, you remember how they treated January 6 people? And the January 6 people weren't setting cars on fire. They were peacefully walking through the Capitol taking selfies. These people need to get the exact same treatment or worse, and they're not. And so this is a problem. I agree. Killikami, that's a good point. These people should be facing their lives ruined for this. Another super chat, the Bates Funny Farm. So thank you for that. And let me just bring that up here. Thank you. When I lived in San Diego, I was denied an app because I didn't speak Spanish. Laid off too for the same reason. Rent was $1,200 for a shithole. Yeah, I have family in San Diego, and you can't even get rent for $1,200 there now. It's really crazy. Yeah. Again, English is the official language, and that needs to stop. And we need to reclaim our country again. It is outrageous. And see, these are things that break apart a country, and we shouldn't have had to live like this. Sadly, the people that came before us, they allowed this to happen. I've used the analogy before of like it'd be like if you have a home and all of a sudden rattlesnakes start being in your home. Yeah, rattlesnakes are a problem. They need to get out. But you find there's actually a guy every night that opens your window and throws rattlesnakes in your house. Well, all right, rattlesnakes are going to be rattlesnakes. You got to get rid of them. They don't belong in your home. There's nothing wrong with rattlesnakes. They're part of God's creatures. They're happy in the woods eating rabbits or whatever, but you don't want them in your home. But the problem really are the guy that has a bag of rattlesnakes and he's opening your window and dropping them in your home. That's the guy that's the problem. And that's who we have to go after legally and shut those people down and put them in prison for a long time. They are the ones that need to be responsible. So these people, remember, a lot of these people, they didn't, it wasn't all these migrant invasions. Remember the caravans? They didn't do that on their own. This was all funded by NGOs like Soros and other people, the Catholic Charities, Hebrew Aid Society. They gave them all the information and help to come into the country illegally. Those people need to face a long time in prison. They should be tried for treason. I would argue treason should get the death penalty too. We should have zero. I mean, they're facilitating an invasion. It'd be like in the old Middle Age time. You're in your castle, and then in the middle of the night, your castle's under siege by the hordes. And in the middle of the night, one of your people unlocks the castle gate and allows a horde in. Yeah, we can't have any sympathy for those people. Pretty horrific. That is definitely what is happening there. So, all right. So let's see here. We have one, this lady, let's listen to her. Let's just, as I said, a lot of the stuff that used to be considered verboten is like mainstream. Like even Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk now has come out against legal immigration. As Z-Man said, just a couple of years ago, if he had that position at one of his conferences, security would have come up to you and kicked you out. Now that's like their official policy. So things are changing pretty quick. All right, let's listen to this girl here. Hold on. Yes, pretty short.
If you would have asked me like 9 months ago if I would ever be making pro-white content, I would have looked at you like you were insane. Like, the idea of a white person being proud to be white is so foreign to most of us. And it's really only been conflated with evil and hate and maliciousness. And it's like you stop and you think about that. Like, white people are really the only ones that are taught to hate ourselves.
That's true. And this is really what's opening people's minds, because Jewish people getting together and advocate for their interests. I mean, they're big time in the United States and funding their ethno-state. That's fine. La Raza or Mexican groups, that's fine. That's celebrated. In fact, they fly their flag. Black groups, of course. Remember George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, that's good. It's only evil for white people to have an identity. But who says? Who says? I mean, the people are saying that. Why are they saying that? That even the dumb whites are starting to say, well, wait a minute, this isn't making a lot of sense. I mean, it would make a lot of sense if it's like, we got to get away from ethnic identity, and anyone that does ethnic identity, no toleration for that. So if you're a Jewish person, you're flying the Star of David, and you're acting like Ben Shapiro saying we need to fund Israel, no tolerance for that behavior. I'm not saying to advocate this, but just say, imagine this society or BLM. No, we're not going to tolerate those type of groups. BLM, they're like the KKK. We're not going to tolerate the KKK. We're not going to tolerate BLM. We're not going to tolerate black groups in Congress. Same with Hispanics and same with whites. I think white people will be like, yeah, okay, I get on board with this. But no. That's not, no. They're the official position. Everyone else gets their identity groups except us because we're wicked and evil and they're good. That's their position.
We're the only ones that are blamed for every and all atrocities across the planet over all of time. We are the only ones that are taught to be colorblind. We're the only ones that are constantly having diversity shoved down our throats. Like, we are a global minority being replaced in our own countries, and I've had enough.
So I know this is just one person, but she's like saying she wouldn't ever thought of saying this just 9 months ago. And now she is. So the white pill is there's going to be many more of her like this every time they show footage of some Mexican or illegal setting a cop car on fire and waving the Mexican flag. It's a big recruitment tool. The biggest recruitment tool there is are those images of that happening. And so good for her. I'm glad that she was able to see that. And see, the danger is there's a lot of people that I think are being paid by the enemy that are saying, oh, well, no, that's cool. That's base, but you're not doing enough. You got to wear this funny costume from 90 years ago. Otherwise, no, or you got to do all these other things because they're trying to discredit you. And so it's important to have the morality and not buy into their what they try to get you to do, because I understand how effective a girl like that is. But you'd have certain groups, they would want her to do all the symbols and everything else. So good for her on that. Let's see here. We'll change gears a bit. And JD Vance talked about the whole Elon Musk thing and Trump.
Elon just hit the airwaves today. Bring it up,
man.
Dude.
Oh, man.
The fucking shit missile is in the cannon.
Okay. Wow.
Elon Musk, and you may have heard of him.
I've heard of him.
Time to drop the really big bomb, right? And I thought this was going to be on Iran.
So it's funny. I haven't even seen.
Right?
I haven't even seen this one.
But he goes, at real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day. Nice signature from a South African DJT.
Man. Well, here's my basic reaction to like all this stuff is look. First of all, absolutely not. Donald Trump didn't do anything wrong with Jeffrey Epstein. Like, there's the guy.
Yeah, and that was really, really poor of Elon to make that accusation. If you're going to make an accusation like that, you better have proof. It's really defamatory. If you're going to call someone a pedophile, you need to, let's show it. Elon, because he got mad at Trump because of the budget, which I understand, but you call him a pedophile is what he's doing. Okay, well, that's a pretty serious accusation. How do you know this, Elon? And Elon later deleted that post, but that was really, really poor on his part.
Guy is whatever the Democrats and the media says about him, that's totally BS. Here's my basic read on it. First of all, I'm the vice president to President Trump. My loyalties are always going to be with the president. Mm-hmm. And I think that Elon, he's an incredible entrepreneur. He's actually done I think Doge was really good. This sort of effort to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in our
you notice how he says was.
Country was really good. And look, man, I'm always going to be loyal to the president, and I hope that eventually Elon kind of comes back into the fold. Maybe that's not possible now because he's gone so nuclear.
Well, his feelings
but I hope it is.
Feels
man,
like his feelings are hurt. Why though? Do you know why?
Yeah, I mean, so look, I think number one, Elon's new to politics, right? So his businesses are being attacked nonstop. They're literally like firebombing some of his cars. And by the way, we're looking into a lot of this stuff. I mean, some of that stuff we're looking into is an act of terrorism at the Department of Justice, because I think it is an act of terrorism. So I think part of it is this guy got into politics and has suffered a lot for it. But I mean, and I get the frustration there, and I get the frustration. I mean, look, Congress, you got the spending bill, but the main purpose of the bill is not actually spending or cutting spending, though it does cut a lot of spending. The main purpose of the bill is to prevent the biggest tax increase. But I understand, like, it's a good bill. It's not a perfect bill. Like the process in DC, if you're a business leader, you probably get frustrated with that process because it's more, bureaucratic. It's more slow moving.
Yeah.
So I think there's just some frustrations there. But I really, man, I think it's a huge mistake for him to go after the president like that. And I think that if he and the president are in some blood feud, most importantly, it's going to be bad for the country. But I don't think it's going to be good for Elon either.
So, and a lot of people accuse JD Vance being on Elon's side. It doesn't sound like that way at all. And he said, obviously, he's a vice president. He needs to support Trump. And as I said, I think the reason for the feud is Elon was pretty naive. He went in for all these cuts, and he wanted them to be in the bill, which I understand. I really do. I did a video about this is going to be a serious situation. But I think what JD Vance was trying to say here is when you're getting into reality and politics, you got to get the best bill you could realistically get, right? So don't let perfection be the enemy of good. Have you guys heard that phrase? Don't let perfection be the enemy of good, meaning saying that if it's not perfect, you're not going to do it. You're not going to accept good. You're either just going to accept the whole thing or not at all. And we saw that even, I remember, with the whole abortion thing. Remember, Trump got rid of Roe versus Wade. Whatever you want to say about Trump, he appointed the judges that got rid of Roe versus Wade. This was the biggest pro-life thing they fought for decades, my whole life. Trump made it happen. Did he get thanked? Well, some people did, but a lot of people, no, it's not enough. It's not enough because he says this needs to go back to the states. It's not a federal matter, which was the argument of a lot of pro-life people. So Trump said, that's what I'm going to do. They're like, no, well, that's okay, but you got to do more. You got to make it illegal in every state. And he said, well, I'm not going to do that because the whole argument was this should be on the state level. So then they attacked Trump. And then I don't even want it then. So this is an example is because it's not perfection. You're going to try to attack something that actually furthers your cause. This is stupid. And in politics, you have to work with people to get the best thing you can. And it's not going to be perfect, probably. It won't be perfect. That's just reality. I don't know what to say about it. It's just how it is. And sometimes people, congressmen, they will have to have pork in their district so you get their vote, so you could get something better for all Americans. Let's just do a hypothetical. I'm not sure this is the case, but Trump wants to put in, for example, the no tax on tips thing, and keep the tax cuts that were previously in so we don't have a tax increase. Trump wants to keep, that's what he wants, right? And let's say there's one congressman, well, I'll vote for it, but I still want some spending in my district on some defense stuff, which we would call pork. Well, what do? And let's say this hypothetically, the congressman is the key vote. Do you allow that quote pork to go through in order to get the greater stuff, all the tax cuts and no tax on tips? Or I'm going to hold to my principles and no, I'm not going to give you any pork. Meanwhile, the whole thing goes down then. That's politics. And I don't think Elon quite understood that, or he was naive with that, which I'm a little surprised. He should understand the ways of the world, but that's just how these things work. And I personally, how I feel about this bill is the United States, I still stand with this. In 10, 15 years, we're in a big problem financially. I don't see a process to fix it. So that's another thing. So now we're having to deal with reality. And reality, this bill does have no tax on tips. It does keep a lot of the tax cuts. It does increase funding for ICE. It does help to kick out a lot of these invaders that you see running around, setting cars on fires. That's good. So I support the bill. Is it perfect? No, we got a lot of problems. I don't like all the spending money on the military. That's a waste. We can't afford it, but we're in the real world, and that's what we can get. So I understand Elon Musk's frustration, but I thought he handled it honestly very, very poor. That's not to accuse Trump of being like a pedophile or something. And again, I think he's walking that back, but that's that was a bad thing. That was a bad situation there happening. And let's see here. And Rand Paul, I had a video of him. He talks about the spending, and I get it. I understand libertarians. They're not wrong. The spending is a big issue, but we have bigger fish to fry at this point. Because if we don't have a country, as Stephen Miller said, then the budget doesn't make any difference. So I'm not saying that the budget isn't important. We are headed to a fiscal disaster in probably a decade or so. And but yeah, I get that. So all right. I think this will be it for today. It's been a good show, and we made our goal. So I'll be doing the show tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for that. And again, Wednesday night, we're doing another show with Z-Man. That's a really great show we're doing every week. And we're going to talk about propaganda in the media and how you see it all the time. It's jarring. If you see like old movies or TV and to see what's now, it's the propaganda is so heavy-handed. Anyway, guys, it was a good show. It's good to be here, and hopefully everything goes well. No more riots and stuff. Hopefully this will be resolved. And thank you very much. And I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.